Me?
My own wife, 40 grand, from the bird feeder.
Bird feeder, listen to yourself. You sound demented.
The most dangerous weapon in Tony Soprano's arsenal wasn't a gun. It was his therapist's couch. Think you know The Sopranos? We're putting the show on the couch to dissect what's really going on in Tony's head. I'm Matthew. Help other fans join the session by liking the video. Let's begin. Let's get one thing straight. For all the chatter about whackings, rats, and the ever-present fear of a sudden cut to black, the real gut punch of The Sopranos isn't death. It's the profound, suffocating absence of change. The show is a 6-season-long argument that the greatest tragedy isn't a bullet. It's the slow, quiet death of the person you could have been.
He's got more degrees than a thermometer. Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it.
Does your therapist ask questions about our marriage?
The central exhibit is, of course, Tony himself. He spends years in therapy, mastering the language of self-awareness, not to grow, but to build a more sophisticated cage for his own bullshit. Therapy becomes just another weapon in his arsenal, a tool to justify his monstrosities while lamenting the sad soldier routine. He never escapes the gravitational pull of his own nature. He just gets better at describing the fall, eventually becoming, as one observer aptly put it, comfortably numb. This inertia infects everyone.
What's gonna happen?
Wake up, Tony. It already did.
Carmela has her moments of defiant clarity, a trip to Paris, kicking Tony out of the house, that feel like a potential jailbreak. Yet she always circles back, lured by the comfort of the blood money and the security of denial.
Carmen got the chef from Fontanella. Killer wine list. Look at this.
AJ flirts with meaning through political outrage and existential despair, only to end his arc exactly where you'd expect, in a BMW, wearing a clean suit and working for little Carmine.
Let the guys see you take the reins.
That's not how I want to handle it.
They all approach the edge of a different life, take a good long look, and then shuffle right back to the familiar misery they know. The show doesn't offer closure, it just screams repetition. Naturally, a chorus of dissenters will point to the exceptions.
That Honey owns a restaurant. It's doing great. Buco? Yeah. So what? The exception that proves the rule. Oh, you know everything, don't you?
They'll tell you Artie Bucco found a redemption arc, becoming comfortable in his own skin after a brief dalliance with self-improvement.
Johnny Sack, boss of a family. Time would have been great for us to have John as the boss.
They'll point to Johnny Sack, who, facing terminal cancer, finally prioritized his family over this thing of ours.
Well, how are you, Arthur?
Never been better.
Or Furio, who escaped to Naples to, in the most romanticized of views, grow olives with a beautiful wife. This is, of course, the same Furio who beat up women and was an unapologetic thug. A gentle soul indeed. Then there's the case of little Carmine, who wisely stepped away from the big chair, leading to a truly baffling bit of boardroom philosophy. It's going to be hard to verify that he thinks he will be more effective. You'd have to get him into the same room, and I don't think that's possible even with computers. As one philosopher put it, it's very allegorical, but these are exceptions that prove the rule, or characters on the periphery. The core of the show remains a monument to stasis. It's why some people hate it. They demand a narrative arc. A good show, they insist, should show the main protagonist being a different person in the end. To which the only sane rebuttal is, why? The frustrating genius of The Sopranos is that it denies us this easy satisfaction. The characters do change, but usually for the worse, or in ways so marginal they're insulting. Chris Moltisanti becomes marginally more mature, but only after destroying countless lives. Was that 5% improvement worth the societal cost? Hell no. This is the secret that echoes real life so painfully. Most people don't have a grand, transformative arc. They are who they are. Of course, some will argue that Phil Leotardo changed into a house, which is, admittedly, a significant transformation. But for the rest, the ultimate question isn't, did Tony die? It's, could a version of him ever have truly lived differently? The answer seems to be no.
Oh, he was a snitch.
Yeah, I know he was, but he's gone. You're gonna travel, you're gonna get a volunteer job, you've done nothing.
Stop telling me.
As Livia Soprano would say, it's all a big nothing. You just keep sinking into yourself until there's nothing left to change. This is the absolute worst seduction scene in television history, and it perfectly explains Tony's character. Let's settle a perennial debate. The eternal question. The one that occupies the minds of devoted fans and pop culture analysts alike is this. How on earth did Tony Soprano, a man whose flirting style can best be described as pre-cannibalistic, manage to attract so many women? The case against his charm is, admittedly, strong. We've all seen the evidence.
I had lunch with that girl next door, you know.
You did?
Isabella.
There he is in season 1, staring at his neighbor's house with the intensity of a hungry bear, moments before deeply inhaling the scent from an exchange student's lost garment. The subsequent conversation is a masterclass in making everyone uncomfortable, culminating in the line, "If my dentist looked like you, I'd stay awake during my root canal." It's a miracle she didn't file a restraining order from inside his own hallucination. And then there's the full court press on Dr. Melfi.
What part of the boot you from, hon?
Dr. Melfi.
His grand romantic overture, "I want your skin, your mouth," lands less like a come-on and more like a threat from Hannibal Lecter. This is the stuff of parody, not successful seduction. He's genuinely shocked, hurt even, when a respected middle-aged professional isn't instantly won over by the same approach that works on a 24-year-old from the Bada Bing.
Unfortunately, because of our prior clinical relationship, I just can't do it.
His immediate reaction to her rejection, throwing a tantrum and calling her a cunt, was, naturally, the perfect validation of her decision. So, what gives? One simple explanation is that it's a TV program, a movie. The show presents a male power fantasy. Who wouldn't want to eat endless gabagool, intimidate their enemies, and have a rotating cast of goomas?
His wife.
She's not his wife anyway. She's his goma.
Tony gets the girls because he's the main character, and that's what main characters do. A slightly more sophisticated argument points to the Gandolfini factor. Drea de Matteo famously called him one of the sexiest actors she'd ever worked with, an opinion that sparked its own share of unrelated controversy. So we'll take that with the entire Dead Sea. The point stands. Many women are drawn to the bull of a man with a cheeky smile, not some panty-waist Hollywood type. Add in the intoxicating cocktail of power, wealth, and danger, and voila. Confidence, it seems, gets the job done. But this is where the real genius of the show reveals itself.
I mean, it's not like in the old days when a man had a wife and then sort of a second wife.
The idea that Tony was irresistible to all manner of women is a complete fiction. A closer look at the roster shows his paramours were almost exclusively strippers, sex workers, or women with profound psychological issues who were drawn to the chaos he represented. Gloria Trillo, Valentina La Paz.
When I get out of here, we're going with discotheque, you and me.
Svetlana, the one-legged Russian caretaker, set firm boundaries after a single encounter. The women he actually got were, for the most part, damaged, transactional, or both. On the flip side, a self-respecting, stable woman his own age, Dr. Melfi, saw him for the insecure, approval-seeking boy he was and sent him packing. And it's essential to put one point to rest.
There was no Isabella.
What?
There was no Isabella. I just talked to Cusimano. Him and the Who's just got back from Bermuda. I asked him, where's the dental exchange student that's staying at your house? He looked at me like I was fucking Obats.
That young Italian exchange student, Isabella. She wasn't real. She was a lithium-induced fantasy. The fact that he still couldn't seal the deal in his own hallucination is, perhaps, the most telling detail of all. For those who missed this crucial detail, one might recall Dr. Melfi's advice: discontinue the lithium.
Cuckolding is when a man has an affair with another's wife,
She's not his wife anyway. She's just Gomar.
and therefore has no status whatever.
Ultimately, the debate isn't about whether Tony was a stud or a creep. He were both. He got laid because he was a rich, powerful, charismatic mob boss who preyed on vulnerable women. The question isn't how he did it. The question is why it remains a point of such fascination. To fixate on his cringy behavior is to miss the larger picture. Must have been top of your fucking class. Stop calling the fight in Whitecaps the peak of TV drama. You're ignoring the most hilarious and bizarre reveal of the entire series. In the hallowed halls of Sopranos analysis, where every frame is dissected with the rigor usually reserved for sacred texts, few moments detonate with the same comedic whiplash as a single line in the nuclear argument of Whitecaps. As Tony and Carmela tear each other apart, Carmela drops a reference that has fueled fan speculation for years.
So you've had a one-legged one now, huh? That's nice. You've had quite a time on my watch. The preschool assistant, the weightlifter.
I never stole from you.
Who's
You got a one-legged one now, huh? A preschool assistant, the weightlifter. And there it is, the record scratch, the weightlifter. The sheer, beautiful absurdity of the image. New Jersey's most famously weighty mob boss, having an affair with a woman defined by her dedication to lifting weights, is a moment of pure, unintentional comedy. Edie Falco's deadpan delivery gives no hint that she has just gifted the fandom a mystery so profound, it sends them spiraling. Naturally, the discourse immediately went to the most sophisticated place imaginable: dad jokes. The initial wave of responses was a glorious deluge of the obvious.
It's like an ad for a fucking weight loss center. Before and way before.
One observation was that she was the weightlifter, he was the weight, punctuated by a rim shot.
Hold on, my lats back up.
Did you by any chance talk to the building inspector about my house?
This was swiftly followed by callbacks to Tony's own questionable athletic past, with some quick to note.
There was a time when I could bench over 300 pounds. When I made your head cold one time, I did it.
You're forgetting he used to be able to bench 300 pounds. With a major head cold one time, he did it. Clearly, this was a romance forged in the fires of a local gym, a shared passion for moving. That kind of weight.
She's fighting a weight problem since the kids were born. Weight Watchers, Richard Simmons, fasting.
But no Sopranos discussion can ever stay on topic. It's a physical impossibility. The mention of one affair inevitably triggers a Pavlovian response, and the conversation collapses into a black hole of barely related quotes.
The one-legged woman, I know who she is.
But I don't want her involved.
The one-legged one, Svetlana, leads to a chorus of "put leg on docking station." Speculation about other secretarial affairs prompts a deep dive on Connie's T-Rex arms.
When it's a steroid.
Like for weightlifters?
I've had a great deal of success with it treating this type of condition.
Someone dares to mention steroids, and the room erupts with a unified "nobody's doing steroids." It is a beautiful, demented ecosystem where the primary mode of communication is quoting the show back at itself. Listen to them. They sound demented.
Me?
My own wife, 40 grand, from the bird feeder.
Bird feeder, listen to yourself. You sound demented.
Then, emerging from the cacophony of inside jokes, a lone voice of reason might attempt to offer genuine sociological insight. A plausible theory emerges. The affair likely happened in the late 80s or early 90s, a time when weightlifting became a new fitness fad for a certain class of tomboyish women. This theory posits that they embraced chauvinistic male cultural patterns, and a figure like Tony would have eaten it up. It's a brilliant, well-reasoned hypothesis that attempts to bring order to chaos. It is also completely ignored in favor of more quotes. Ultimately, the great weightlifter debate is a perfect microcosm of the fandom itself. It starts with a moment of genuine, dramatic brilliance, immediately devolves into a competition of puns and inside jokes, spirals into a vortex of disconnected quotes, briefly entertains a moment of serious analysis, and then shrugs it off to get back to the important work. It proves that no matter how serious the drama gets, for the fans, the heart of the show is an open book. And for that, you get a pash. Everyone says David Chase left the ending of The Sopranos ambiguous. Everyone is wrong. Let's all take a moment of reverent silence. After all these years of pointless debate, a breakthrough has occurred. The central thesis, a revelation of such staggering insight it practically demands a parade, is this.
Tell Tony and Paulie, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Fucking morphine.
Mikey Palmice from beyond the grave warned Tony about his impending doom. The message? 3 o'clock. The prosecution presents Exhibit A, the final scene. Tony sits in a booth at Holston's, facing the door. The men's room. The point of origin for the members-only guy and presumably the fatal bullet is located directly at Tony's 3 o'clock. It was not a time. It was a direction, a ghostly warning, conveyed via Christopher Moltisanti's fever dream that was right there all along. You see? You just weren't paying attention. For the skeptics in the room, the evidence becomes naturally overwhelming when you consider the numerological significance. The scene is practically drowning in threes. 3 Cub Scouts, 3 creamers for a man's coffee, 3 Sopranos initially seated, 3 excruciatingly long attempts by Meadow to park her car. It's so obvious. It's a wonder David Chase didn't just have Tony wear a jersey with the number 3 on it.
I'm still baffled by this 3 o'clock thing, though.
This wasn't foreshadowing. It was an anvil. This, of course, triggered a predictable schism among viewers, most notably regarding the 2 unidentified black males who enter the diner. One camp, channeling the show's own narrative framing, labels them shady, a callback to previous assassination attempts and a representation of where characters like Tony feel danger lurks. The opposing view argues this is nonsense. They are simply background extras, and focusing on them undercuts the brilliant misdirection of the real threat, the unassuming white guy in the members-only jacket. A third, more nuanced take suggests they were decoys placed by Chase to reflect Tony's own prejudices, lulling him into watching the wrong door. Naturally, the peanut gallery had thoughts. The response to this grand, unified theory was a familiar chorus of Sopranos' infused dismissal. I can't have this conversation again. Always with the scenarios. You sound demented. Fucking parakeet. The most prescribed piece of medical advice, repeated for emphasis, was a simple, elegant, discontinue the lithium. The most popular philosophical observation was, some people are so far behind in the race, they actually think they're leading. Of course, no theory is complete without its own tangential spin-offs. Perhaps the 3 o'clock warning was actually about Chris, who as a driver sat at Tony's 3. Or maybe, just maybe, it was all a coincidence, prompting the cynical suggestion that there's no way David Chase even remembered that line.
Mikey's their fucking ringleader.
You whacked a bunch of heavy hitters in your time. Now, you think they're gonna all join together and follow that prick Mikey?
How can you just sit there? He warned you about 3 o'clock, too.
But why let a little thing like authorial intent get in the way of a good story? A case has been presented, clearly expecting a key to the city in return. The world, it seems, compromised with a polite but brief round of applause. Anyways, $4 a pound. In the world of The Sopranos, crying is a bigger crime than murder. Here's the proof. Let's unpack the glorious train wreck that is Johnny Sack's departure from his daughter's wedding, a scene so dense with masculine anxiety and miscommunication it deserves its own sociology course. The scene's brilliance hinges on a beautiful, fleeting moment of human interaction.
Terrible out there, huh? Poor guy. He's an emotional man. He loves his daughter.
a random wedding guest, witnessing a man being forcibly hauled away by federal agents, remarks, "Terrible out there, huh? Poor guy." A normal sentiment for a normal person. But Phil Leotardo is not a normal person. Phil's headspace is not occupied with thoughts of due process or public humiliation. It is entirely consumed by the fact that John Sacrimoni, boss of the Lupertazzi family, had the audacity to weep. So when the guest offers a generic platitude, Phil hears an attack on John's emotional outburst. His reply, a defensive and utterly baffling, "He's an emotional man, loves his daughter," must have left the poor guest wondering what in the hell that had to do with anything. It's a perfect microcosm of the mob mentality, so insulated in their own bizarre code of honor that they can no longer participate in a simple conversation. Inevitably, some will point out with tedious precision that Johnny wasn't technically arrested, but rather was secured for transport after his court-allotted time expired. This is a fantastically pointless semantic argument. Whether he was being arrested, detained, or escorted to his pumpkin coach, the man was frog-marched out of his own daughter's wedding in cuffs. The effect was humiliation. And to focus on the terminology is to fundamentally misunderstand the drama.
My estimation of John Sacrimoni as a man just fucking plummeted.
Give him a break, will you? It's an emotional day.
The real drama, of course, isn't legal, but emotional. For Phil, this was the moment his estimation of John Sacrimoni as a man fucking plummeted. And it's not the racketeering or the conspiracy to commit murder that's the issue, it's the tears.
To cry like a woman? That's a fucking disgrace.
His fucking coach turned into a pumpkin.
Well, even Cinderella didn't cry. Look, when it comes to daughters,
To cry like a woman, it's a fucking disgrace, Phil seethes, later adding the immortal line that defies all logic. Even Cinderella didn't cry. This isn't just holding a grudge, this is Pauly-level fixation. Lest we feel too much sympathy for poor guy Johnny, let's not forget he brought this on himself. He wasn't just enjoying the party, he was pushing the Marshall's timeline, and more importantly, conducting business. He used the wedding as a networking event to arrange a hit on the mayor of Munchkinland. He fucked around with the feds, and in return, they made sure he found out in the most theatrical way possible. Ultimately, the scene is a masterclass in mob hypocrisy. Phil is disgusted by Johnny's weakness, yet feels compelled to defend him to an outsider to keep up appearances. The greatest sin in their world isn't crime, it's the perception of weakness. It's a universe where ordering a hit during the father-daughter dance is just business, but crying is an unforgivable disgrace. That right there is the top of their fucking class. Yo, I've been working on my screenplay, and even I know to hit like and subscribe. If you don't, I swear on Adriana's tiny dog, I'll flip.